Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Supreme Court struck down President Trump's global tariffs Friday, ruling in a 6-3 decision that he didn't have the emergency powers he claimed to have to impose tariffs. President Trump immediately lashed out at the justices of the High Court, vowing other alternatives are available to him to pursue tariffs, and announced a 10% global tariff over the current rate. On Saturday, Trump raised his global tariffs to 15%. This time, Trump issued the latest round of tariffs under a different law, Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, which allows him to impose up to 15% tariffs for 150 days. The tariffs are set to take effect starting February 24th.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. It's my opinion that the court has been swayed by foreign interests and a political movement that is far smaller than people would ever think.
Soon after the Supreme Court's ruling, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker sent a letter to President Trump demanding tariff refunds for every family in Illinois. The letter reads, quote, "The Supreme Court has ruled this is yet one more unconstitutional act by you and your administration. This letter and the attached invoice stand as an official notice that the compensation is owed to the people of Illinois, and if you do not comply, we will pursue further action," he said. We'll have more on this story after headlines. U.S. and Iranian negotiators are set to meet in Geneva Thursday to discuss a new nuclear proposal. According to Axios, U.S. officials say this is likely the last chance President Trump will give Iran before ordering a U.S.-Israeli military operation that could directly target Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. It comes as the U.S. has been building up warships and fighter jets near Iran, deploying 2 aircraft carriers, the largest USS Gerald Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln. This is President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff.
I don't want to use the word frustrated. It's almost because he understands he's got plenty of alternatives. But it's curious. He's curious as to why they haven't, I don't want to use the word capitulated, but why they haven't capitulated.
On Sunday, anti-government protests in Iran erupted on university campuses in the capital, Tehran, and the northeastern city of Mashhad. In videos on social media, the student protesters appeared to wear black to mourn the thousands of demonstrators killed by Iranian security forces in last month's protests. The Iranian government has arrested 40,000 people in connection with the anti-government demonstrations last month. At least 3 people were killed in another U.S. military strike on a boat in the Eastern Pacific. The U.S. Southern Command confirmed the Friday attack, claiming again without evidence the boat had been targeted for traveling along a supposed drug trafficking route. CNN reports at least 148 people have been killed since September, when the Trump administration began its series of military strikes on boats in the Caribbean and Pacific, attacks that have been widely condemned as illegal. This comes as Cuba's been withdrawing security advisors and doctors from Venezuela in the aftermath of the U.S. attack and abduction of the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife in early January. Reuters reports the move comes as Venezuela's interim leader, Delcy Rodriguez, is facing growing pressure from the U.S. to cut ties with Cuba as the Trump administration seeks to further isolate the island to topple the Cuban government. At least 32 Cuban officers were killed in the U.S. attack on Venezuela last month. The officers part of Maduro's security detail. Mexican security forces killed Mexico's most wanted drug lord, Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, on Sunday in the town of Tapalpa in Jalisco State. The U.S. had provided intelligence to Mexican authorities for the operation. The U.S. had placed a $15 million bounty on El Mencho, who led the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, which is a designated terrorist organization in the United States. Following his death, violence erupted in multiple cities across Mexico. In Guadalajara, Jalisco's capital, gunfire was reported, and armed men reportedly set a gas station ablaze. Vehicles were set on fire near beachfront hotels in the resort city of Puerto Vallarta. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico urged Americans to shelter in place in multiple states across Mexico. Tourists were left stranded in Puerto Vallarta as Air Canada, Delta, American Airlines, and Alaskan Airlines all announced they were canceling flights to and from the town's airport due to the ongoing security situation. Israeli strikes have killed at least 12 people in eastern and southern Lebanon in another violation of the ceasefire deal with Hezbollah that went into effect November 2024. Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health said at least 2 people were killed in an Israeli attack on the Ain al-Hilweh camp, the country's largest Palestinian refugee camp. The Israeli military claimed to target Hamas. The group denies it has training facilities in Lebanon's refugee camps. According to the UN, the Israeli military has launched more than 10,000 attacks since it agreed to a so-called ceasefire with Hezbollah. In the occupied West Bank, calls for justice are growing following the death of 19-year-old Palestinian-American Nasrallah Mohammed Jamal Abu Sayyam, who succumbed to his injuries last week after he was shot by an Israeli settler. The teen was fired at when he tried to stop Israeli settlers from raiding his village to steal sheep. His family's demanded accountability from the U.S. government, with the State Department releasing a statement this weekend that said it expects a full, thorough, and transparent investigation into the teen's death. The Trump administration last year lifted sanctions on Israeli settlers involved in violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. Abu Sayyam was born in Philadelphia. He's at least the 11th U.S. citizen killed by Israeli soldiers and settlers since 2022. Arab and Muslim nations are condemning recent remarks by Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, after he claimed Israel has a right to expand into most of the Middle East. Huckabee made the comments in an interview with the right-wing commentator Tucker Carlson. Here's the exchange.
Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis.
Yeah.
You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all. But I don't think that's what we're talking about here today.
What would be fine? Well, it's exactly what we're talking about today.
But here's what I don't think
you think it would be fine if the state of Israel took over all of Jordan?
They don't want to take it over.
The League of Arab States said, quote, statements of this nature, extremist and lacking any sound basis, serve only to inflame sentiments and stir religious and national emotions, unquote. An autopsy report by the Democratic National Committee on the 2024 election concluded Kamala Harris lost significant support because of the Biden administration's policy on Gaza. That's according to reporting by Axios. The DNC's report still hasn't been released to the public. The Institute for Middle East Understanding, IMEU, policy project is accusing the DNC of withholding its autopsy report, in part because of its findings on Israel. The IMEU policy project reportedly told the DNC that the Biden administration lost its credibility among young people and progressives over its support for Israel. Hamid Bendas, a spokesperson for the IMEU policy project, said during the meeting, quote, the DNC shared with us that their own data also found that policy was, in their words, a net negative in the 2024 election, unquote. In Britain, at least 12 activists with Palestine Action have reunited with their families after months in jail. Among the group released on bail Friday were 4 hunger strikers. Only one of the 18 activists was not granted conditional bail. Their trial is scheduled for April. That's according to the BBC. Earlier this month, 6 Palestine Action protesters were found not guilty of aggravated burglary, even after they admitted to breaking into a factory operated by the Israeli military firm Elbit. The British government has banned Palestine Action under its Terrorism Act over direct action protests against Israel's war on Gaza. A 23-year-old U.S. citizen was fatally shot by an ICE agent in South Texas nearly a year before Federal immigration agents killed Renee Good and Alex Preti in Minneapolis as part of Trump's immigration crackdown. But ICE's connection to the March 2025 fatal shooting of Ruben Ray Martinez in South Padre Island was only made public last week in reports by Newsweek and the New York Times. Martinez was reportedly shot multiple times by the ICE agent, who's unnamed, after he didn't follow orders to exit his car. His mother told the Times he'd been in the area to celebrate his birthday at the time he was killed. She described him as hardworking, telling the New York Times, quote, "He was a good kid. He never got in trouble," unquote. Martinez worked at an Amazon warehouse in San Antonio. A powerful winter storm, which meteorologists call a bomb cyclone, has pummeled and paralyzed the northeastern United States, leaving over 40 million people under a blizzard warning by this morning. More than 260,000 customers in the mid-Atlantic region are without power, mostly in New Jersey and Delaware. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani declared a state of emergency on Sunday and ordered a citywide travel ban between 9 p.m. Sunday and noon Monday. Many school districts, including New York City and Boston, have declared a snow day with no remote learning or in-person learning today. Thousands of flights have been canceled nationwide, with New York area airports experiencing the most disruptions. Scientific experts have long warned the worsening climate crisis is leading to more intense winter storms. University of Pennsylvania researcher Annabelle Horton said data shows, quote, that these really intense, really destructive nor'easters will, in fact, only get more destructive and more powerful in a changing climate, unquote. U.S. Secret Service agents fatally shot an armed man who breached the secure perimeter at President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida, Sunday. The Associated Press reports the man has been identified as 21-year-old Austin Tucker Martin from North Carolina. He reportedly drove into the secure perimeter as another vehicle was exiting the resort. He had a gas can and a shotgun, according to Secret Service. Martin had been reported missing by his family a few days ago. Trump and the First Lady Melania Trump were at the White House at the time of the incident. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.